Hey guys, what is going on? We are halfway through the Open Championship, the British Open. It has been an awesome couple of rounds so far. I was joking around earlier today. My kids haven't been sleeping very well, but that's actually been a blessing this week because I've been able to catch golf a little bit earlier, with things teeing off in the wee morning hours. So it's been super fun. We got a pretty solid leaderboard. I got a couple guys in play. If you followed any of this, hopefully you do too. Let's take a look. So if I bring up the current state of the leaderboard, you see Louis Oosthuizen leading the way. Mr. Runner-up in seemingly every major, has been red hot, especially with the putter for the first couple rounds. So he shot a 64 on Thursday, 65 today, made an eagle out there, only one bogey on the card all week, so he's leading the way. He's up by 2 strokes over Colin Morikawa, who flew up the leaderboard today. Played really, really well. Shot a 600 round, but honestly left a little bit on the table. Missed some putts inside of 10 feet, so could have been an even bigger day. And then in third place, oh man, here we go again. So we got Jordan Spieth in the mix. If you tailed any of the other videos or watched any of the other videos, I was super high on him this week. I was also very high on one Patrick Cantlay and Patrick Reed, but the Patricks, but they decided to go out and miss the cut. So we got Jordan Spieth in the mix. Didn't exactly separate himself from the pack today, but that's okay. He still has looked really good. We'll look at some of the data in a second. We don't have live strokes gain data this week, but the Open Championship is collecting data in terms of greens and regulation, fairways, things like that. So we'll try and use that to figure out if there's anything we need to keep an eye on over the weekend. But Jordan Spieth has looked really good. He's been magical as always, but looks really good. So happy to see him in the mix, and what a better way to complete the comeback. I know he won earlier this year, but to take down a major here at the Open Championship. Then you got a bunch of guys here at 7 under. Dylan Fratelli, Dustin Johnson, who flew up the leaderboard today. He's looked really good as well. Kind of kicking myself because in my early video I said, hey, very viable path was to lean into Spieth and DJ this week. I ultimately ended up did not bet DJ, did not bet use him in fantasy either. I ended up going with Rory because he was a little lower owned, and Rory, true to form, has flashed but has not been overall great. He's going to make the cut, but a little disappointing to see him not play as well. Scotty Scheffler also has looked really good. He's sitting there at -7 as well. And then you got a crew of guys here at -6. A lot of randos, a lot of Euros. South African Danny Von Tonder is sitting here. So these guys have all looked good. Emiliano Grillo, who is basically a ball striking machine, he shot a 664. So one thing you will note, this is not playing nearly as difficult as I think everyone thought it would, right? We have a lot of guys under par and a pretty far under par as well. I was expecting this to totally be a, -5, -6 takes this thing down, but it looks like we're going to be maybe 10 strokes better than that. So absolutely crazy. It's the conditions haven't been too rough. The wind has been there, but guys have still played through it. Definitely a surprise to me to see this thing is, a lot of red numbers out there. A lot of guys shooting 66, 65, 64 out there. So definitely gettable the first couple days. We'll see if that changes over the weekend. Tried to look into some of the weather forecast. I think it's super tough to peg. The weather can change. The wind can change on a dime. So you got to be ready for it. But from what I can see, it's going to, at least from a forecast perspective, looks pretty comparable to the first couple days. So again, looks like elite ball striking is kind of the key here, and you got to make your putts. So if that's the case, that plays into the hands of guys like Morikawa. Louis been, I think, pretty good from, again, this is a little bit of like eye test strokes gained, but Louis been pretty good ball striking, but making almost every putt. Spieth has been really good ball striking. Again, we can look at some of the greens and regulation data since we don't have strokes gained approach, but these guys have all been good. DJ as well. So these guys are probably, the winner is going to come from this pack here. And even at -5, you got guys like Paul Casey, who, if any of these guys make a run, I hope it's him because I do have a bet on him. But Brooks is here at -5. Mackenzie Hughes -5. John Rahm with one of the rounds of the day today, shooting a 64 to move back up into contention. I think fours are probably a little too back, in my opinion. Again, like it's gettable. So if someone goes out and shoots a 62 or 63, in theory, they could move way up the board tomorrow. But I kind of think it's going to get a little harder over the weekend, even if the weather forecasts don't, not a huge uptick in the wind or anything like that. But just the way that these things tend to play out, sometimes majors are a little, like the course is a little more gettable the first couple days and then starts to pick up in terms of difficulty. So definitely possible, but probably not the most likely outcome, because not only do these guys in the fours have to fly up the board, they also have to pass the top players in the world. So guys like Rahm, Brooks, DJ, Spieth, Morikawa, etc. So that's a look at the leaderboard. It's been super fun. Man, I love Morikawa. Like this kid is just absolutely ridiculous. If he were able to pull this off, he'd be the first player to ever win 2 majors in his debut. So he already has a PGA championship to his credit. I just love watching this guy. He's a machine ball striking. I personally did not have any of him. I thought that with the course expected to play difficult, he would be a guy that would have trouble getting up and down, saving par if he was missing greens, but turns out he is basically overcoming the weather, still hitting a lot of greens in regulation, making some, not all of his putts, and that's how he's in the mix. So good on Colin, but I'm really rooting for Spieth. I think it would be just fantastic to see him kind of come full circle, winning the Open Championship in 2017, struggling for the better part of 2.5 years, big comeback earlier this year, winning an event, and now coming into the British Open, right there in the mix. But they got to get past Louis, who looks pretty good. So anyway, that's the leaderboard breakdown. Jumping over to the stats. So again, we don't have live strokes gain data, but whatever this NTT thing is, they are collecting data in terms of fairways, greens in regulation, etc. I'm not leaning too much into the fairways hit aspect, because technically if you hit into the first cut of rough, that's a missed fairway, but it's still been pretty gettable even if you're a little bit off. So unless you're like in the hay, missing fairways isn't too big of a challenge. Bryson knows all about that. He's been there a fair amount this week. So I'm leaning a lot into greens in regulation, and the putting metrics I think can help. Again, it's not strokes gain data, but it can help identify who might be riding a hot putter. So just looking at strokes gain data for the event so far, approach greens in regulation, Brandt Snedeker is actually leading the way. Spieth is right up there. Rahm is right up there. So these guys, again, it's just going to, Louis up there. Like it's going to be again, if nothing changes, it's going to be a bit of a putting contest. The most tilting thing I've seen this week is that one Patrick Cantlay, who missed the cut, has actually hit over 80% of greens in regulation. How do you do that? You are missing every single putt. Again, putting is super volatile, but like, man, if he would have just put it together a little bit, my fantasy lineups would have been in a lot better place. Maybe we would have a shot at the Millie. I don't know, but man, that's just disappointing to see. But again, Morikawa's here in the 80s. So again, these guys are all hitting greens in regulation. I think that's going to be key. If they continue to do that, it's going to turn into a bit of a putting contest. One interesting dynamic about the greens, they are playing a little bit slower than I think people are used to. So folks are leaving it a little bit short. So it could be who makes the adjustment. So Rahm today probably left 4 or 5 putts, perfect line, just left him a little bit short. So again, like I know he's sitting there at -5, but he's a guy, I think he's 14-1 on the live odds. Yeah, he's 14-1 on the live odds. Like again, I don't know if he's going to win. There's some firepower ahead of him, but the ball striking looks like it's there. He's got to overcome guys like Spieth, Louis. Louis, again, I would say he is in the true lead, right? This isn't a fluke. He's sitting there at -11. He's looked really strong. So he's going to have to come back a little bit. But honestly, this is gettable. Guys could go out and shoot a 64 tomorrow. Everyone else holds steady and they're taking over. So anyway, that's how guys are getting it done at the top of the board. So no surprise, the guys at the top of the leaderboard getting there through greens and regulation. If we look at maybe the putting stats, so guys that are at the top of the board. So Colin Morikawa is definitely putting very well this week. Again, he did leave some on the table, I think, today, so he could have had an even bigger day. But basically, if you see guys at the top of the board in terms of putting and greens and regulation, like Louis up here, like that's a tough combination, it looks like, this week. So guys that are not putting it as well, you're going to find other guys at the top of the leaderboard, right? So let's jump down. Maybe we can find where Spieth is here, because that would be shocking, right? Like I have watched a lot of Spieth this week. He's definitely rolled in some long ones. He's made a ton of birdies, so he can't be too far down here. But again, like I think that'll end up being the combination. And again, with these sorts of courses, if it does start to the conditions pick up, things get a little difficult. There's a shot creativity element that I think Spieth is, and Rahm too, in that regard. Like these guys can get there in a lot of different ways. Where they're aiming. The greens, there's a lot of undulation to them, and some greens, the hole is like in a little bit of a valley, right? Like that requires some shot creativity. You can't just be like firing at the pin, right? So I do think some experience there, some things like that are worth considering. Again, just given where I'm at, like I'm all in Spieth this week. I'm probably not going to live bet anybody, but like guys like DJ, Rahm, Spieth, I think you can even throw Morikawa into that mix. If they're accurate and creative, I think that's a winning combination too. But ultimately, guys are going to have to make their putts. So that's more or less what we can get out of the live data. There's a couple other things out here, driving distance, again, fairways hit. I'm not too concerned with any of that, to be honest. For me, like just seeing who's hitting greens in regulation, I think is probably the most important thing if you're looking at any of this. So let's take a look at what Data Golf has to say. So no winning score probabilities or anything like that. My guess is it'll probably be 17, 18 if things play as easy as they have the first couple days. So going to have to go out and fire a low round one of tomorrow or Sunday. In terms of likelihood to win, their model is giving Louis about a 34% chance, Morikawa about a 17, Spieth about 13. And again, like this can all flip in a hurry, right? So Spieth goes out bogeys the first, DJ goes out birdies. These are going to flip in a significant way. This is just how things stand right now. So guys that I'd be looking at, and again, if you can get good odds on any of this, like Rahm, DJ, Brooks, seem like good bets to make a run up the board. Paul Casey as well, just given kind of pedigree, experience in these sorts of events. Again, I don't know if any of them, 5 might be tough to win, right? I think the probabilities here reflect that. But if any of them can go out and kind of make a run, it's these guys. I'm not as worried about kind of the random Euros, kind of, relatively minor names here in the mix. Again, any of them could come out and win, but I'm not sure that it's the most likely scenario, just given some of the firepower up here. So let's look at the live leaderboard. So again, like, and the odds reflect this too, right? Like, it's unlikely someone is going to come from the pack, right, at -4, -5. So you're probably looking at the winner coming from, and again, I'd throw Paul Casey into that mix too. The fact that Casey, Rahm, Brooks all have the same score right now at -5, but Casey is 40-1 and these other guys are 14-1. Like Casey seems like a value in that regard. So if he could go out and shoot a low number tomorrow, everyone else kind of holds steady, like that could make sense. But again, it's not the most likely scenario. So for me, I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on this, throughout the day. If we get into a spot where maybe Spieth, someone like that, gets some separation, Spieth and Louis get some separation, then it may make sense to start thinking about kind of hedging or taking some shots down the board. But for me, like the winner is most likely going to come from this range. I wouldn't be taking too many darts down the board. Again, this could change in a hurry depending on how things play in terms of the difficulty, but guys like Morikawa, Spieth, kind of these elite ball strikers, I think are probably in a better position. And for Louis, again, like I love the guy, but he just doesn't get it done on the weekend. So to me, he's not, yes, he is the favorite. Yes, he has a 2-shot lead over everybody, but he's not a strong favorite in my opinion. And it's reflected in some of the data that we looked at, right? So getting it done with the putter, that's super volatile. Again, he can absolutely keep it up and keep doing it. But to me, if you're this is gambling, right? So taking a shot maybe down the board, some of these big names would be where I would look, but I probably wouldn't go too deep. And for me personally, I'm just going to be rooting for my man Jordan Spieth to get it done. So that's a little bit of the event so far. I think it's again been super fun. I think it will continue to be that way over the weekend. Whenever you have names like this in the mix, there's a lot of drama that comes with it. Be sweating every shot, every hole. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Hopefully you guys rode along for the ride here with Spieth and even Casey. They're my best shots to a profitable week. And if Spieth gets it done, it'll be a really nice week for me. Same with Casey. So that's it for now. If there's something interesting heading into the final round, I'll do an update video. But outside of that, you probably won't hear from me. I actually like the early content schedule, so I'm probably going to try and start getting things out a little bit earlier than I have been. I think it seems like folks have been benefiting from that too, so probably going to try and get something out. Maybe we can do a recap after the event on Sunday and do a little bit of a preview for next week's event at that point. Hopefully I'll be holding a winning Spieth ticket or a winning Casey ticket for that update. So that's it for me. If you like the content, as always, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and we will talk soon. Best of luck this weekend. Enjoy the event. And yeah, hopefully it's a great one. And hopefully we get a winner on the other side. So thanks a lot and talk soon, guys.